Relationship has to do a lot to do with motivation. How
Yeah.
motivated are you to someone who's constantly making expectations and demands of you, especially if you can't do it fast enough or you don't know what they said? So there's an underlying fear and anxiety in that relationship. You're going to get a lot of negative responses because,
Yeah.
but if you put forth just just a few words to explain what's going to happen, what the circumstances are that trigger, like she did. We're going to an airport and I'm going to be stressed. Simple as that. And therefore, I can't, what I need from you is to follow right behind me. And that's the way you're going to be safe. How hard was that? But we don't stop to think of those things. We know it in our mind, but subconsciously, but bringing it to that thinking level of the brain and actually communicating that to someone, that's what the change requires.
Yeah.
Is you do have to become more conscious and aware of communicating what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you need from the other person.
Hi, I'm Staci Neustadt. I am a speech language pathologist and the CEO at Making Sense of Autism, and I'm a student of Susan.
And I'm Susan Golubock. I am a now retired occupational therapist who has worked many, many years after I discovered even my own autism with other autistic individuals. I founded Making Sense of Autism because of my passion to not only understand my brain and how it worked differently, but to try to explain what I've learned to other people so that they're more understanding and therefore more accepting and more accommodating to autistic individuals.
So, our goal is to help you provide the right support without trying to fix autism, but by understanding it. So, whether you're a parent, teacher, therapist, or just someone who wants to learn, you're in the right place. Be sure to subscribe and join us every week. We talk about a new topic. So, Sue, you've said before that behavior is communication. And I want to talk a little bit today about how the neuro-strengths-based support for autism framework really is a relationship-based framework. So in thinking about that, what's a relationship-based response using the idea of our framework that's more helpful than discipline?
Um, Discipline and compliance are negative based approaches. They don't build a relationship. Now, if you want compliance, apparently you don't care about a relationship. You only care about compliance. So this person should do what you want. And if they do what you want, then you met your goal and you go on. There is no, folks, it's like a policeman that stops at traffic. He's not interested in building a relationship with you. He's interested in you were speeding and I'm going to give you a ticket, and it's all authoritative down. But parents, they want a relationship with their kid. Um, teachers, teachers care about the children and they care about the learning. If you care about someone, you want to be built on a relationship with them. And yes, a teacher-student relationship is not the same as a parent, but the essential is the same. And communication is the way we establish relationships, or at least that's how most people think. Is it's verbal communication, and if you can't communicate, there is no relationship. Well, excuse me, there's nonverbal communication that people automatically rely on to help them know how truthful the person is being, whether they're trying to take advantage of them. You use nonverbal communication, you rely on that input all the time. You just don't think of it as communication. And yet, for an autistic who is struggling with verbal communication, um, and they use nonverbal communication, and it's ignored because it's not verbal, which is what you want from them, then now there's the relationship breakdown right there, around the whole fact that there are communication differences in the way an autistic communicates, and is interpreted, and the way a non-autistic communicates and is interpreted, by each other. This is the double empathy theory. So you can't get around communication, and relationships are the underlying factor that we're going for.
So when someone has a moment where maybe, we even talk about the importance of us being regulated, if a teacher or a parent has a moment where, they're just rushing through trying to get something done, and the child communicates obviously in a way that, no, I don't want to do this. And how do we fix those kinds of moments so that instead of you have to do this, or a discipline type, idea or approach with it, how can we go in the direction of strengthening that relationship by how we respond? So how can we respond in a way that makes that relationship stronger versus going the opposite direction of discipline?
I have the perfect example. This was a parent with an 18-year-old son. They were having to go to the airport, and she explained to me how she was going to deal with the fact that airports are big, busy places, and there's a lot of potential dangers for an autistic individual who's not paying attention or can't sort out everything that's going on. And so she told him in advance, the airport is a very stressful place. I'm going to be focusing really hard on getting us there safely. What I need from you is to follow behind me at all times. All you have to focus on is me. This is what I need from you. It worked beautifully. She explained in advance, this is going to be a stressful time. Even if under the moment, if you say to your student or your child, I am under a lot of stress right now. I need to get this done very, very quickly. Here's what I need from you. And when an autistic is told concretely and literally what to do, we can do it. But she's making it clear you don't have an option. I am not going to be able to support what you want. I need you to do what I need now. But that isn't the deal all the time. They also know when mom is calm and she's got the time, she's going to take it, and she's going to support you making choices, but not under this circumstance. That's how you deal with it.
Yeah. And by meeting those needs of preparing him ahead of time at the airport, I can see how that does build that relationship, because he's like, okay, now I feel safe, and
That's right.
you met this need. And that's how any of us build relationships and feel connected, because we feel safe with that person. And I think we don't think about that enough. When I first started working as a speech therapist, or even when I was a babysitter, parents would always be like, oh, they love you. And it's because I always made kids feel safe. I listened to them. I was there for them. I, was not a disciplinarian with them. I just, had fun. And yeah, if there were moments where they were doing things they couldn't do, we problem solved and worked through it. But I never thought about that. That's why that worked. I always just thought, oh yeah, I was described as you're good with kids. And so, but I think that's a problem, that we don't think about why something works, because then we don't know how to keep doing it. We don't know how to teach other people to do it, which is why the NSBSA framework works so beautifully, because you teach non-autistics how to be aware of these things. This is why this works. This is why this doesn't work, and help us shift so that we can replicate this and be mindful and conscious of like, oh, okay, when we build this trust, when we listen, when we may help our autistic clients feel seen and heard, then that behavior or whatever goes away because they don't have to communicate through behavior. And then that relationship gets so strong. And I see it every day in my clients I work with. I see it in the clients my speech assistants see. And it wasn't like it was extra work. It's just I shift how I go into my sessions and I check in with my clients. How are things going today? If they seem regulated and good to go, like we go with our plans. If they are dysregulated, that is the last thing I'm going to do is make them do true speech work because they aren't ready. So we talk about like, hey, what's going on? And dig in a little bit to why they're dysregulated. And I can tell you every time I do that, we eventually get to whatever we were going to get to, but they just feel so seen and heard. And again, that relationship just builds. So
Yes. Mhm.
it makes
And the
such a difference.
relationship has to do a lot to do with motivation. How
Yeah.
motivated are you to someone who's constantly making expectations and demands of you, especially if you can't do it fast enough or you don't know what they said? So there's an underlying fear and anxiety in that relationship. You're going to get a lot of negative responses because,
Yeah.
but if you put forth just just a few words to explain what's going to happen, what the circumstances are that trigger, like she did. We're going to an airport and I'm going to be stressed. Simple as that. And therefore, I can't, what I need from you is to follow right behind me. And that's the way you're going to be safe. How hard was that? But we don't stop to think of those things. We know it in our mind, but subconsciously, but bringing it to that thinking level of the brain and actually communicating that to someone, that's what the change requires.
Yeah.
Is you do have to become more conscious and aware of communicating what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you need from the other person so that it's clear.
And it really does build a beautiful relationship, which is
Mm-hmm.
what we all want.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sue.
Thanks for asking.